The horrifying story of Yungeen Ace and Foolio involves kidnap, murder,
Getting kidnapped like a little baby, like a little boy. They found a bone.
and even disrespecting dead ops' graves.
They tore up his grave, they spit on his grave, they urinated on his grave.
These two leaders of the KTA and ATK gangs have earned the title Demon Rappers. The bodies in Jacksonville keep dropping and the rivalry intensifies. But the whole story involving the two rappers and their gangs is deeper and more shocking than you can ever imagine. ATK versus KTA. To understand why Yungeen Ace's ATK and Foolio's KTA are considered the most dangerous gangs in Jacksonville, look no further than some of their senseless murders. And to start us off, we have KTA's murder of Corbin Odell Johnson. On July 11, 2018, the vibrant 18-year-old FaceTimed his friends at 4 in the afternoon. Little did they know, this would be the last time they would see Corbin alive. Corbin had told his friends he was at Amazon for a job interview and was awaiting a ride. His father, Corey Mormon, recounted dropping his son off for another job interview with UPS at 5 in the afternoon, only to pick him up 45 minutes later. He later drove Corbin to his mother's residence on Biscayne Bay Circle at 8 in the evening. His mother, Melissa Mormon Jackson, would later report that the last time she saw her son was at 9:30 that night. The clock ticked on, and the following morning at 8:45, Corey sent a text message to his son, which would go unanswered, setting off alarm bells in his father's heart. By 6:30 in the evening on July 13th, the family's concern had escalated to action, and they officially reported Corbin missing. The Jacksonville Sheriff's Office began their investigation but never made any progress. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and months into a year of agonizing uncertainty. As the first anniversary of Corbin's disappearance approached, the family planned a memorial at Riverside's Memorial Park, but fate had written a different ending to Corbin's story. On the evening of July 11th, 2019, a man clearing land off Utsey Road made a shocking discovery. Corbin's skeleton was found, wrapped and buried, bringing a tragic end to the search. KTA's head honcho, Foolio, was all up on Instagram making fun of Corbin after the discovery was made.
And Corbin, they let Corbin get kidnapped, man. That shit crazy, man. The Corbin. Got this stupid kidnapped. They found a bones. He getting kidnapped like a little baby, like a little boy.
If you're wondering why he would go online and make fun of such a sad incident, you only have to look a few months back when one of their own was brutally murdered and his death mocked by ATK. In the heart of Jacksonville, 16-year-old Adrian Gaynor Jr., alias Bibby, a student at Grand Park High School, met a distressing fate in an incident that left the city grappling with questions and a family in profound grief. The sudden and violent loss of this young life, cut short in the parking lot of his friend's residence, sparked an outcry for justice. The death hurt Foolio so much that he released a song in his honor. On February 25th, 2019, at the Hilltop Village Apartments parking lot on West 45th Street, Bibby was found lifeless, the victim of multiple gunshot wounds. The area around the gazebo, where he had been spending time, was littered with dozens of shell casings from a rifle, tracing the path of his desperate attempt to escape his assailant. Witnesses reported the teenager being chased down. They saw Bibby fall and was struck by bullets as he tried to shield his head with his hands in a futile effort to protect himself. According to the arrest warrant, it was Hakeem Robinson, alias K-So, an ATK affiliate, who, in a cold-blooded act, approached Bibby and shot him at close range in the back of the head, even as the young teen continued to try to defend himself. The arrest warrant also revealed that K-So had taken to social media after Bibby's death, posting several photos and videos where he appeared to be bragging about Bibby's murder. This brazen display of disregard for human life added another layer of horror to the case and further inflamed the community's grief and anger. And it seems K-So and his gang did more than brag about their hit on Bibby. As it turns out, they went as far as to disrespect his grave and dissed his relatives every chance they got.
They tore up his grave, they spit on his grave, they urinated on his grave, they made fun of our rallies or whatever, they made fun of us marching, they mocked us every chance that they got.
Both ATK and KTA have committed heinous crimes, and their leaders, Foolio and Yungeen Ace, are nothing short of monsters. So what are the gang's origins, and why are they beefing so viciously? Before the streets of Jacksonville echoed with the notoriety of the ATK gang, there was the Ying gang. It was within this environment that a young rapper, Yungeen Ace, began to make a name for himself, not just with his music, but as a figure of emerging influence in the gang landscape. With a microphone in one hand and the reins of leadership in the other, Ace's ascent in the rap industry paralleled his climb within the gang hierarchy. His lyrics, a raw reflection of life on the streets, became anthems that resonated with the youth, earning him not just fans but also loyalty among the ranks. As Yungeen Ace's influence grew, his interactions with the gangs on the east side of Jacksonville intensified. It was a time of strategic alliances and shrewd negotiations. Ace, with his charisma and street credibility, bridged the divide between the west and east, weaving a network of loyalty and control that spanned the entire city. The ATK gang, which stands for Aim to Kill, became a force that commanded attention and respect. As the ATK gang solidified its grip on Jacksonville, a rival entity was rising in the shadows. The KTA gang, an acronym that sent shivers down the spine of the city with its chilling implication, "Kill Them All," was on the rise. The genesis of KTA was rooted in the remnants of the notorious PCE gang, which had once sown chaos across the city. The PCE had been crippled by the law, with its top 10 members falling into the hands of justice, charged with murder and firearm offenses. This left a void that was quickly filled by those who remained, hungry for leadership and direction. Enter Charles Jones, or as the streets knew him, Foolio. His life was a chronicle of the violence that plagued the city, having witnessed the loss of numerous friends to the endless cycle of gun violence. These experiences didn't just shape Foolio, they hardened him, creating a leader both feared and respected. With the remnants of PCE rallying behind him, Foolio orchestrated a takeover of the North and South territories, asserting control with a mix of strategic alliances and sheer force. KTA's influence grew, and with it, a new power dynamic took shape. The city was now a chessboard with ATK and KTA as its principal players, each commanding their halves with an iron fist. The emergence of KTA under Foolio's command set the stage for an inevitable confrontation. The city was now divided, with ATK holding the east and west, and KTA claiming the north and south. Tensions simmered as both gangs fortified their positions, and the streets of Jacksonville became the backdrop for a burgeoning war. The primary reason for the ATK versus KTA feud was likely an instance of disrespect between the two gangs dating back years. The incident occurred during a rap concert in November 2015, where members from both gangs were present. Despite the tension between the groups, they attempted to form a truce by shaking hands. However, one member refused, leading to a fistfight and ultimately series of retaliatory shootings. And that's when the first publicized murder took place, the murder of Zion Brown. Murder rap. Zion Brown was active in the streets and was rapper Foolio's blood cousin. Their ops decided to take things too far and attack Brown's home. It was around 1:30 in the morning when the family's backsliding door was broken by a brick. Inside the house, Brown's 16-year-old sister was jolted awake by the noise. She did what any frightened person would do in such dire circumstances. She called 911, desperate for help. But before the reassuring presence of law enforcement could arrive, the situation escalated. A figure emerged from the darkness, stepping through the remnants of the glass door. The gunman, with calculated coldness, made his way into the kitchen and then into the living room. The space, which had been filled with the soft breathing of sleeping children, was now a stage for a horrific act. The teenage girl, along with her 9-year-old cousin and her brother Zion Brown, gathered in the living room, their hearts pounding with fear. The gunman looked upon the innocent faces of the children and felt no remorse. His finger tightened around the trigger, and a series of shots rang out, each one a piercing echo of terror. The 16-year-old girl tried to take cover behind a couch, but the bullets found her, striking both of her legs. Her young cousin was hit in the neck and right arm, the pain unimaginable for someone so young. And Zion Brown was fatally wounded. As the gunman's weapon clicked empty, he turned and walked out the same way he came in, leaving behind a scene of devastation. As the community of Jacksonville's Cedar Hills estates awoke to the aftermath of the tragedy, the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office was already deep into the investigation of the triple shooting that had claimed the life of Zion Brown and injured 2 young girls. The detectives were determined to piece together the events that led to the senseless violence and to bring the perpetrator to justice. The investigation took a significant turn when the wounded 16-year-old girl, still grappling with the trauma and the bullets lodged in her body, provided a crucial piece of information. She knew the shooter, not just a face in the crowd, but someone she recognized as a Facebook friend and the boyfriend of one of her friends. This revelation steered the detectives in a new direction, and the name DeAndre Thomas surfaced as the prime suspect, a man with close ties to Foolio's main op, Yungeen Ace. DeAndre Thomas, a 19-year-old student from Orange Park High School, was no stranger to the law. His past was filled with a series of arrests in Clay County, including drug possession and a string of burglaries, one of which involved the theft of a firearm. In fact, DeAndre and Yungeen Ace were both implicated in that robbery 7 months before Brown's murder, where the two conspired to rob someone who was reportedly selling weed. Shots were fired into that home, nearly missing a couple and a 1-year-old child. After his arrest, Ace pleaded no contest. This connection between Zion Brown's killer and Yungeen Ace intensified the rivalry and took it to new heights. The police, armed with this information, launched a manhunt for Thomas. Then, the next evening around 8:30 near Butler Boulevard and Belfort Road, the search came to an end. DeAndre Thomas was arrested. He was charged with 1 count of murder for the death of Zion Brown and 2 counts of attempted murder for the injuries inflicted upon the 2 girls. However, the story didn't end with Foolio's affiliate's death, as Zion Brown's family were forced to move out of the house for fear of retaliation after Brown's sister snitched. All this happened in 2017, and over the next few months, Foolio and KTA were silently planning their biggest score, and this time, they wanted the top dog, Yungeen Ace. In June 2018, Foolio and his gang struck. Just 3 days before the deadly shooting, Ace took to social media to post this photo with an ominous caption. Little did he know that only a few days later, he would be fighting for his life while his closest friends and brother would lose theirs. On a warm summer evening, the city of Jacksonville was bustling with the usual Floridian nightlife. Among the revelers was Yungeen Ace, who was out to celebrate a special occasion. June 5th marked the birthday of his younger brother, Trayvon Bullard, and the night was meant to be a joyous gathering. Alongside them were close friends Royale Devon Smith Jr. and Jacoby Deshad Groover, both of whom shared their enthusiasm for the night ahead. The group chose a local favorite spot for the birthday dinner, a place where laughter and music filled the air, and the worries of the outside world seemed to melt away. As the evening progressed, the tight-knit group enjoyed the camaraderie and the celebration of life. Little did they know that the night would take an unimaginable turn. After the dinner, the 4 young men left the venue, their spirits high and their hearts full of the evening's festivities. They settled into their Chevrolet, ready to continue their night elsewhere. But as they pulled away, the unexpected horror unfolded in mere moments. A car, nondescript and seemingly out of nowhere, approached their vehicle. Without warning or provocation, the night air was pierced by the sound of gunfire. The Chevrolet, once a vessel of celebration, became a target as it was showered with bullets in a relentless attack. Yungeen Ace, amidst the chaos, made a split-second decision fueled by instinct and brotherly love. He leaned over in a desperate attempt to shield his friend in the driver's seat, risking his own life in the process. Tragically, his efforts were in vain, and the driver, along with 2 other passengers, succumbed to their injuries. The hospital became Ace's new battleground, where he fought not just for recovery, but for dignity. In a shocking turn of events, he was expelled from the medical facility, his lack of insurance deemed more significant than his critical injuries. Meanwhile, Ace's legal troubles compounded when it was discovered that earlier on the day of the shooting, the group had visited a gun shop on University Boulevard. Video evidence from the store led to Ace being charged with a probation violation for firearm involvement. Facing the aftermath of the shooting and the legal repercussions of his actions, Ace surrendered to authority. He was charged with violating his probation from a 2017 accessory conviction related to an attempted robbery. His probation terms explicitly prohibited him from firearm possession, and the video of Bullard handling a gun was sufficient for the judge to deny bail. Adding to his torment, Ace was also denied the opportunity to attend his brother's funeral, a heart-wrenching denial of closure. But Foolio and KTA were not yet done. They went after one of ATK's rising rappers, Boss Goon, in yet another mass shooting. In the early hours of a January morning in 2019, the streets of Jacksonville, Florida became the stage for a brutal and shocking act of violence that would send ripples through the community and the rap world. Willie Addison Jr., better known by his stage name Boss Goon, along with 5 others, fell victim to a merciless drive-by shooting that left the city in disbelief. On a fateful night in Jacksonville, the air was thick with anticipation as local rap enthusiasts gathered at Paradise Gentlemen's Club on Bay Meadows Road. Among the crowd was 25-year-old Boss Goon, fresh out of prison and eager to make his mark on the scene. He had completed a 6-year stint for burglary and perjury convictions only 6 months prior. As the night waned, Addison and his entourage decided to call it an evening. They piled into a silver Chevrolet Tahoe, unaware that this ride would be their last together. The clock struck 2 in the morning as they made their way along Emerson Street near the intersection of Spring Park Road. Boss Goon and his group were unaware that surveillance cameras at Wacko's Gentlemen's Club were documenting a sinister plot unfolding. The footage, later scrutinized by law enforcement, showed 2 vehicles with an ominous presence tailing the Tahoe. It was here that the unexpected horror unfolded. A vehicle pulled up alongside the Tahoe. Without warning, the quiet of the night was shattered by a barrage of gunfire, a relentless assault that turned the Tahoe into a scene of chaos and despair. In the aftermath, the Tahoe, riddled with bullets and carrying the weight of tragedy, raced to Memorial Hospital. Boss Goon, who, despite the frantic efforts of medical professionals, was pronounced dead, his life cut short in an instant of senseless violence. Family members of ATK rapper K-So, whose name really is Hakeem Robinson, were injured in the shooting, including his father, Adbull Robinson, who was shot in the back. This incident led K-So into a murderous rage where he relentlessly terrorized his ops, and it was an eye for an eye as ATK went after their rivals' rappers. One of the rappers whose life was claimed was none other than the fast-rising Rico Osama. The Jacksonville War Zone. On a day that began like any other, the west side of Jacksonville became the scene of a triple shooting, an event that claimed lives and left the city in mourning. Among the victims was a name well known in the local rap scene, Rico Osama, whose music echoed the streets he called home. It was in the late afternoon when the sound of gunfire shattered the usual hum of activity along San Juan Avenue and Jams Road, a location known for its vibrant energy and the hustle of daily life. But on this fateful day, the area would become the backdrop for a troubling incident that would end the life of an up-and-coming artist, Rico Osama, whose real name was Julian House. Rico Osama, a name that was just beginning to make waves in the music industry as an affiliate of the well-known rapper Julio Foolio, found himself at the center of a violent altercation. Witnesses described the chaos that ensued as approximately 30 gunshots rang out, echoing off the storefronts and sending bystanders into a state of panic.
In the video, you see a customer leaving a store before hearing multiple shots.
The rapid succession of shots was so intense that it drew the immediate attention of an off-duty officer in the vicinity, who promptly alerted the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office to the unfolding crisis. The officers responded with urgency, rushing to the scene at 6300 San Juan Avenue, where they were met with a sight of devastation. There they discovered 3 adult males, victims of the shooting, their bodies bearing the brutal marks of the attack. The parking lot of the business plaza was littered with shell casings. The air was thick with tension and fear as the reality of what had occurred began to sink in. One business owner, whose establishment faced the brunt of the violence, recounted the terror of the moment. He spoke of how at least one bullet had pierced through the walls of his business, striking a refrigerator and leaving a chilling reminder of the narrow escape from what could have been an even greater loss. The plaza building itself and several parked cars were riddled with bullet holes, a silent witness to the ferocity of the attack. One individual had been killed and 2 others sustained injuries severe enough to require immediate medical attention. One of the victims dropped to the sidewalk before crawling into the store. Luckily, EMS arrived in time to save his life. The victims were swiftly transported to the hospital. Unfortunately, no one was ever arrested for the murder. Sadly, pictures on his personal Facebook page show him with his newborn child, born the same month he was gunned down. But Rico Osama wasn't the only rapper from KTA that was gunned down by Yungeen Ace and his affiliates. Another name that pops up is Charles Quentin McCormick, known to fans as Lil Buck. He became another casualty in a string of brutal shootings and was killed in what would become a drama-filled incident. On a day that dawned like any other in Jacksonville, Florida, the usual hum of activity at Dames Point Plaza was about to be disrupted by an event that would send shockwaves through the community. It was late Wednesday morning when the sounds of gunfire pierced the air, a brutal reminder that violence can strike anywhere, anytime. Lil Buck, a 23-year-old man with dreams and aspirations in the rap music scene, was in the parking lot of the plaza. He was an up-and-coming artist in the local rap community. At approximately 11 in the morning, the tranquility of the day was shattered. An off-duty officer present at the scene witnessed a drive-by shooting that would claim the rapper's life. The assailants, with cold precision, gunned down the young rapper in broad daylight. The officer, trained for moments like these, sprang into action, giving chase as the perpetrator's vehicle sped away from the plaza. The chase was intense, the streets of Jacksonville becoming the backdrop for a pursuit that felt ripped from the pages of a crime thriller. The suspect's car, unable to evade the relentless pursuit, crashed nearby. 2 men emerged from the wreckage, their determination to escape leading them to commit a home invasion just a few blocks away. In a desperate attempt to evade capture, the men broke into a stranger's home, held the homeowner hostage, and changed clothes. A terrifying ordeal for any resident to endure. They were even caught on camera jumping over fences and running through people's yards as they made their escape. Their escape plan involved a getaway in a red or orange Dodge Charger or Challenger, a vehicle that would later become a key piece of evidence in the unfolding investigation. As the dust settled on the tragic scene at Dames Point Plaza, the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office launched a full-scale investigation into the cold-blooded murder of Lil Buck. The city, no stranger to the scourge of violence, braced itself for the revelations that this case would unearth. The investigation was meticulous, with detectives combing through every lead, every piece of evidence that could shed light on the perpetrators of this heinous crime. The breakthrough came when K-So was identified as a suspect. His name was not unknown to law enforcement, since he was entangled in a web of gang affiliations that had long cast a shadow over Jacksonville's streets. The case was not just about a single act of violence. It was a glimpse into the ongoing feud between rival gangs, a feud that had claimed numerous lives and was now being waged through the medium of rap music videos. Tracked down to Atlanta by the Fulton County Sheriff's Office, he was apprehended and faced extradition back to Jacksonville, where he would join 6 others awaiting trial for their involvement in the attack. The arrest was not just the closing of a case, but also a statement against the gang violence that had taken root in the community. Many more have fallen as a result of the ongoing beef, and the gang leaders, Foolio and Yungeen Ace, seem unbothered as they continue to release music and profit from the clout. Will the war end anytime soon? Only time will tell. If you enjoyed this video, click on the boxes playing on your screen to watch similar content.